Venus enters the zodiac sign of Virgo on July 21st. And no sooner does Venus enter this sign than it will form an opposition to Jupiter in the zodiac sign of Pisces on July 22nd. Hello, my name is Christopher Renstrom, and I'm your weekly horoscope columnist here on Astrology Hub. And this week, I wanted to talk to you about the pivotal Venus-Jupiter opposition that will be taking place. Now, this opposition between planets can actually be seen in the sky itself. In other words, if you were to go to the window and look out over the western horizon at sunset, or actually rather in maybe about the hour after sunset, you will see Venus appear as an evening star. Okay, and she will be resplendent and very shiny, and actually you really can't miss her. Just look to where the sun has set, maybe about 45 minutes to an hour after it's set, and there she is in her evening star phase. Now, part of my morning ritual is to go to the window and to look out at the sky in the hours before the sun has risen, and there I can see Jupiter shining just as brilliantly in the early morning sky. And of course, as the sun rises, Jupiter's rays will fade and he will disappear as daylight takes over. So here we can see Venus as an evening star just after sunset, and Jupiter as a morning star just before sunset. And that is how I want to illustrate to you how an opposition between planets acts. Okay, if you look at one time of day, you can see one planet, and another time of day, you can see another planet. And an entire world stands between the two of them, meaning us here on planet Earth. So basically, when you visualize or you refer to your astrological chart and you see two planets in opposition, you can see that they see each other. They're actually on, they're two opposite ends of one line. But another illustration that I wanted to share with you this week about oppositions is something that I observed the other day while walking my dog Juno to the dog park. While I was walking, I looked over to my left and I saw a cat crouched in a position, staring completely transfixed at this quail that was just sort of like standing a distance away from it, opposite, completely clueless to the cat, eyeing it clearly as prey. And so as this cat sort of hunkered on down and began to move closer to the quail sort of like innocently looked around and was doing its quail business of, I guess, looking around, probably keeping a watch for the other members of its quail family. The cat began its approach. But what was fascinating is that although the cat could see the quail, and the quail had looked over in the cat's direction, would have seen the cat, what wasn't immediately apparent as they were seeing each other across this line is that there was this tremendous drop down between where each of them was standing onto the driveway. So in other words, one person's front lawn came to here, and the other part of the person's front lawn came to here, and Kitty was over here, and the quail was over here. But between the two of them was this divide that dropped down into the driveway. So in other words, had the cat raced forward or leapt at the quail, it would have fallen. Now, obviously, the cat discovered it for itself because it began to stalk. It began to realize that it was coming to the edge of that front yard piece and that it wouldn't be able to make the attack at the quail. And so it just sort of like lost interest and went its own way. What I like to do with that illustration to show you is that the planets can see each other in an opposition, but there is this tremendous amount of distance between the two, okay? They are not on the same page. They're not about to be on the same page. They're not in conflicting positions with each other. Planets in opposition are as far away from each other as they can get in a circle. Okay, so when we have as represented Venus rising as an evening star and Jupiter rising as a morning star, it's literally night and day. They are completely opposite each other in the sky. Now, what's fascinating about this is that these are both benefics. Venus is known as the lesser benefic, and Jupiter is known as the greater benefic. All right, so their opposition begs the question, do they bring good things or bad things? What I've seen take place in an opposition between benefics, I sort of liken it to a low tide. It sort of drops the energy between the two planets. They're not as benevolent or as benefic as they would be if they were in trine or sextile or even conjunction, working on each other's behalf. Here, the planets are kind of like, I can see you, but I'm far away from you. I'm far away from you, but I can see you. And nothing is going to break the distance between the two planets. So they're not working together, nor are they antagonistic. They're just, their energies between the two are not really that strong. Now, what's also interesting about this opposition is when you examine the planetary dignities. All right, a planetary dignity talks about when a planet is feeling at home or not as at home, exalted or down and out. Okay, and this depends on the zodiac sign that the planet appears in. Now, Jupiter, for instance, happens to be in dignity, meaning at home, in the zodiac sign of Pisces, because Jupiter rules the zodiac sign of Pisces, just like Jupiter is at home in the zodiac sign of Sagittarius. It rules the sign of Sagittarius. So Jupiter is very powerful right now in the sky. Venus, on the other hand, is in fall in Virgo, meaning down and out, or the worst possible position for this planet to be in. Now, that used to be a little joke among medieval astrologers some time ago, and what they would always sort of like laugh or chuckle at was the fact that Venus in the sign of the Virgin was not the place that the planet named after the goddess of love and beauty wanted to be. She didn't want to be constrained by a chastity belt and hidden beneath a veil, but rather wanted to run naked or with flowing garments, free, while surfing the waves on her conch shell. Okay, and so the idea of Venus in Virgo was that she was trapped up inside of a convent, way down beneath a veil and robes, and given a rosary bead instead of a lovely blooming rose, which is, of course, the flower that is named after her or symbolizes her. So people who have Venus in Virgo had to deal with this reputation of being called prudes. Not only is Virgo, because of its association with the Virgin, seen as being prudish and cold and standoffish, but Venus in Virgo makes one even more so. Now, I hope I'm not giving away anyone's secret here, but anyone with Venus in Virgo knows that is so not true. Venus in Virgo is very active. They just happen to be very clever and stealthy about it and never ever get caught. What's interesting about this is still the message of Venus in Virgo. Venus is a planet about love, amore, and relationship and being with someone. And so Venus, through all the zodiac signs, wants to basically hook up or unite or ally or be stolen away or be running away from or feigning disinterest towards some other planet. All right. But Venus in Virgo moves with the zodiac sign in a particular sort of way. Virgo is the zodiac sign that I sort of attribute as being the feminist sign of the zodiac. Indeed, of all the signs of the zodiac, Virgo is the only one that portrays a woman. Think about that. 2,500 years of astrology, and there's only one zodiac sign that really portrays a woman, and that's Virgo. Now, it could be argued that, well, we don't really know the gender of the crab or the scorpion or the fish, but pretty much we do know that Virgo is associated with women, and particularly women who are unmarried, which is a story all of its own, and one that I'll be happy to tell you when the sun enters Virgo. But here we're going to be talking about Venus in Virgo. Venus's job is to bring two people together. But in Virgo, what happens is that Venus comes up against the Virgoan insistence on self-sufficiency. In other words, Virgo, as a woman's sign, being sensitive to the fact of living in a patriarchal world for over 2,500 years, where men got to decide the fate of women and their bodies and their children, Virgo was the one sign that stood for women's resistance to living in this kind of world, and the different things that women could do to outwit or outsmart or outmaneuver the men who were in charge. And that's all pretty much bound up in the zodiac sign of Virgo. But the big thing that Venus in Virgo is very sensitive to is that it doesn't want to feel beholden to anyone else. All right. People with Venus in Virgo never want to feel beholden to anyone else financially or physically or spiritually or psychologically. Now, this isn't the same thing as independence and freedom, which shows up with Venus in the fire signs, where they bolt or fight or challenge and they want to be free and they want to be apart. A Venus in Virgo wants to always maintain its autonomy, so that if you're going out with someone who makes more money than you, the Venus in Virgo pays their own way. If you're going out with someone who's much more domineering, Venus in Virgo finds a way to get around that, or to make itself how shall we say, an absolute necessity to a very strong personality. In other words, a Venus in Virgo might be with a very domineering personality, but that domineering personality knows that the person with the Venus in Virgo may be smarter or more shrewd or more clever, and thus gives it up. Venus in Virgo does not want to feel beholden to anyone. It doesn't want to be apart, but it wants to be self-sufficient. So this whole idea of needs and how needs are discussed in a relationship is very much a sensitive point for a Venus in Virgo. Venus in Virgo will actually work quite strongly to curtail its needs so that it doesn't feel dependent or reliant or subservient to another person in the relationship. What can happen, though, unfortunately, if the Venus in Virgo is very strong, is that the needs get subverted altogether or taken care of altogether. In other words, the person with the Venus in Virgo will be like, I'll take care of these needs myself and I don't need you for anything. And what they kind of miss out on without meaning to is that without a compelling need to be with someone else, relationships don't really stay together. In other words, people need people. You need another person to be in a relationship. So short-circuiting your needs altogether is not really a good thing to do. And so if you do that, if you make yourself so that you don't really rely or are beholden or need someone else, then you'll always be on the outside looking in with a relationship. And the whole remedy to that, of course, is to find a way to show your partner your needs. And of course, as soon as you show your partner your needs, your partner will show you theirs. And then that can actually start to bring about some kind of intimacy. Now, Jupiter is opposite Venus this week in the sky, and Jupiter is in its own sign, and it's in the sign of Pisces, which is basically the zodiac sign that we all pretty much understand to be the zodiac sign of unconditional love and sacrifice. Jupiter in Pisces can also be the grass that's greener on the other side of the fence. Okay, so it can be like being drawn or attracted to something which looks far better than what you have. So if you're in a relationship, for instance, you might be struggling with feelings towards someone else that are diverting or taking you away from the relationship that you're in. And so it's maybe begging questions or putting you in some kind of anxiety. If you haven't been in a relationship for a long time, this Venus-Jupiter opposition may be setting up a situation where you've met someone who's very inviting and very welcoming, and you have very strong feelings about, or you're developing perhaps very strong feelings about, but it's triggering all those things of not wanting to feel beholden to anyone, or overwhelmed by someone, or controlled by someone. And so that might be giving you a moment for pause. It doesn't have to just be romantic. These same ambivalences or dilemmas can exist in friendships. They might also show up in business relationships where you're working for a company, but you're being courted by another company and you're feeling guilty about wanting to go with the new company. Or you may feel like or you may be in a situation where you've always worked for yourself, or you've owned your own company and things have changed so that you're not working for yourself anymore, and that you're looking to work for another company, which is inviting you on board. And so there may be questions of like, can I trust this? Can I depend on this? What am I giving up by saying yes? So this idea of autonomy, maintaining your autonomy, which can be very Venus and Virgo, is in opposition to an invite to a planet in its own sign, making an overture or a gesture, inviting you to come on over to its side, and you feeling a kind of like, and that there might be a big drop between where you are and where that other person is. Now, planets in astrology, as we know, as they transit through the different zodiac signs, describe behaviors. A planet essentially doesn't change, but its behavior will change as it goes from zodiac sign to zodiac sign. But the other thing that planets do when they are in signs is they tell us the time. So right now, when we're looking at a Venus in Virgo in opposition to a Jupiter in Pisces, we know that this is not the time to act. Okay, the two benefics are not on the same page. They're not in sextile. They're not in trine. Okay, they're not even fighting with each other like Beatrice and Benedict in Much Ado About Nothing, or Kate and Petruchio in Taming of the Shrew. They're not even squabbling and fighting like a good old romance. They're opposite. They're in completely opposite camps. So this is the stars' way of saying the time for this is not now. You're in opposite camps. That's not a judgment. That doesn't mean that what you're feeling is good or bad. It just simply means that the time is not now. And so faced with this conundrum or dilemma, you may find yourself going back and forth about what you should do. The answer to this is that you will reach your decision when Venus moves into the zodiac sign of Libra and trines Jupiter, which will have moved back into the zodiac sign of Aquarius on September 6th. And what this happens with the two benefics being in the two air signs is that they trine and that they build a bridge so that whatever decision you make will be facilitated and brought to happen, made to happen when the planets trine on September 6th.
You're invited to our first live 2-hour empowering astrology workshop. It's happening July 21st. Shed disempowering beliefs and negative stereotypes about the zodiac signs as award-winning astrologer Frank Clifford helps you fundamentally shift your perspective and embrace the empowering gifts astrology has to offer you. Go to astrologyhub.com/zodiac signs and reserve your spot today. That's astrologyhub.com/zodiac signs. See you in class.